right, let's get started. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Central Asia Program seminars. My name is Sébastien Pérouse. I'm the director of the Central Asia Program here at George Washington University. So the South Caucasus is a region that has witnessed many and significant changes and challenges in recent years, both internally and externally. And the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, which has been a source of tension and violence between Armenia and Azerbaijan for decades, reached dramatic end in September last year, when the Azerbaijani military ended the self-proclaimed Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. So in this difficult context, this event will explore the dynamics of Armenian and Azerbaijani relations in 2024, this year. So we hope that this event will provide you with new insights and perspectives on the complex and diverse realities of the South Caucasus. And I actually think that the goal of this seminar is also to stimulate further dialogue among researchers, policymakers, and practitioners who are interested in or who are engaged with the region. So I don't want to talk too much, but first of all, I would like to thank Mikhail Mamiedov, who proposed this excellent idea to have this seminar today. So thank you very, very much, Mikhail. And actually, Mikhail is going to moderate this event. Mikhail holds a PhD in history from Georgetown University, where he's also a lecturer in history and the liberal studies program of the School of Continuing Studies. Mikhail's multi-ethnic Azeri Armenian family arrived in the US back in 1996 in the wake of the outbreak of the Karabakh conflicts. And he holds an MA from the George Washington University and a diploma in history from Moscow Lomonosov State University. And Mikhail has authored numerous articles on history of the Caucasus and on contemporary literature and the Karabakh conflict. And taking into account Mikhail's huge expertise, I'm pretty sure that Mikhail will be actually much more than a moderator today. He will probably bring his own expertise. And we have three great speakers today. First one will be Dr. Anne Phillips, who is a scholar-practitioner with decades-long experience researching and teaching at US and European universities about system transition in the former Soviet Union. And has also worked for USAID, the George Marshall Center for European Security, and the US Institute of Peace on assistance to conflict-affected and fragile states in the region, and is currently a fellow at the Center for Peacemaking Practice, Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter School for Peace and Conflict Resolution at George Mason University in Arlington. The second speaker is Alexander Iskandarian, who is a prominent expert on politics, nationalism, and the contemporary history of Armenia, the South Caucasus, and Eurasia. Alexander is a political scientist and the director of the Caucasus Institute in Yerevan in Armenia. And he has authored many works on these topics, presented a lot of papers in many conferences. And the third speaker is Dr. Ahmed Halili, who is a researcher in international public policy and regional security of the South Caucasus, the Eastern Partnership countries, and neighboring regional powers. He's part of several peace-building initiatives supported by the EU, UN, and Partnership for Peace Consortium. And currently, Ahmed is the director of the Caucasus Policy Analysis Center, which is a Baku-based independent think tank promoting regional integration in the South Caucasus. And he's also a lecturer at the Academy of Public Administration on the role of non-state actors in regional security, geopolitics, public management, and good governance. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much again, Mikhail, for having organized this seminar, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Sebastian. Okay, I would like to start, I would like to give each speaker like a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes to express your views, express your vision of the situation in the region. Well, in other words, what's going on? It's almost 6 months after the I don't know how to say, after the fall of Karabakh or after end of Nagorno-Karabakh republics, but peace is still not reached. There is no peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and well, very shortly, what is going on? Let's start with Anne. In your perspective, from the point of view of the United States, what is going on in the region?
So I won't speak for all of the United States, certainly, or Washington's approach, but I see the region as emblematic of the international landscape of strategic instability and contested power. And for Armenia and Azerbaijan, to me, that boils down to what Mikhail just mentioned, a situation of neither war nor peace. Tensions remain high. The security dilemma, which has been the heart of the conflict, has been transformed, but not eliminated, in my view, following the 2020 war and then Azerbaijan's establishment of authority over all of Karabakh. And I think the continuation of the security dilemma is evident in the lack of progress on a peace agreement, despite leaders of both countries repeatedly expressing their readiness to sign an agreement based on recognition of territorial integrity, rejecting the use of force, and opening regional communication and transit routes. Initially, border demarcation was also on the list, but that has proved to be a very thorny issue as well. Disagreements on specifics have marked this on-again, off-again negotiation process. And given the lack of progress, I think it's worthy of just noting that in January of this year, Prime Minister Pashinyan proposed a non-aggression pact with Baku, which I don't think was taken up in Baku, but I think that reflects sort of political concerns or concerns generally about the lack of progress. And of course, Armenia and Azerbaijan do not operate in a vacuum. Regional and international actors engaged in the region do not, however, clearly align, as I see it, with either Armenia or Azerbaijan. There's been a return to what is called a foreign policy a la carte, or transactional politics, globally, as well as with regional and international actors engaged in the region. And their positions depend upon the issue. So what I see is a kind of crosshatch, if you will, a crosshatch of relations and cross-cutting cleavages that dominate the landscape. And whether that will be positive or negative is an important strategic question, which I think we will probably discuss. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and very interesting. Okay, maybe with Alexander. So what is going on in the region? By the way, I'm sorry, Anne mentioned non-aggression pact, and a lot of Armenians were very, very sarcastic about this term, non-aggression pact, remembering what happened in 1941 after Hitler invaded former Soviet Union. There was a lot of caricatures, a lot of pictures, a lot of comments about this non-aggression pact, reminding him how Hitler fooled Stalin. Well, I do not want to go to the Second World War, making some comparisons. I will spend hours and hours talking about this. But to Alexander, so what is going on, in your opinion, between these two republics? Between two former Soviet states?
I wouldn't already call it Nagorno-Karabakh conflict because Nagorno-Karabakh is not exist really. I mean both the non-recognized Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, which was not recognized, but it existed, was a body, an entity there on the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. It does not exist as political entity, and it does not exist as a region populated by ethnical Armenians. So you have, I would say, two things. First, you have social economic crisis in Armenia because they are approximately more than 100,000 people, and 100,000 people for 3 million populated Republic of Armenia, which is not richest country in the world, is a problem. And you see them Everywhere here, you have problem connected with them. Second, yes, nobody sees progress here in Armenia. It's both about experts, about elites, and about people. I'm not sure about your metaphors about Second World War, but really nobody believes the papers. Even if tomorrow somebody will sign the paper, any paper, agreement on peace, etc., it would not bring to peace because the paper, an agreement which was signed by presidents of Russia and Azerbaijan and Prime Minister of Armenia in 9-10 November 2020 after the sorry after the Second Karabakh War, it didn't bring to peace. Because it's not just about Nagorno-Karabakh. Now it is about territory of Republic of Armenia, and I would say that there is a vacuum of security in the region in general. Russia is, I would say, busy in Ukraine war and on that direction, and nobody is going to open second front somewhere in the south of Russia. For Europe and United States is not a first priority, this region and this conflict. And really you have situation with no war, no peace, and vacuum of security, which is not the best way. And I haven't seen the progress. Sometimes you listen words, but I cannot see progress in negotiations, negotiations about, I would say, everything, about delimitation and demarcation, about peace agreement, about non-violence, etc. You still, unfortunately, have progress. So situation is already, I can call it stable, unstable. So it is unstable constantly. So maybe I stop here. Situation is like that I try to describe.
Okay, thank you so much. So you offer some kind of stable instability, if I can put it this way.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, to Anar, so yes, to Ahmad. Do you agree with this? Ahmad, do you agree with this? Yeah, Ahmad, I'm very sorry. Do you agree with this formula, stable and stability? And what is, in your opinion, what is going on in this region at this moment?
Yeah, well, President Aliyev announced that there is a de facto peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So basically, it is stable stability in the region right now.
Stable instability.
Sorry?
Alexander formulated it as kind of stable instability.
Yeah, but de facto peace, I believe that means that that you can interpret it in both ways. So I saw it like the stable stability. That's how I heard that. But it can be interpreted in both ways. But we have it, but we can move in from both directions from this point. So the thing is, we are now in a post-war situation. So it means that we don't have peace. We are not in that war phase. So it means that depending on the actions taken during this period, it's so easy to move back, to slide back, and also to move forward. And I believe that in this context, for Azerbaijan, the main question with the September 2023 military action, they establishing sovereignty over the whole Azerbaijan territories. That is the main question for Azerbaijan. That once that question is out of the picture, all of the other questions, they are the secondary importance. Azerbaijan was under the impression that the 2020 Karabakh War that solved all of those issues. But what we saw that they were like the 2020 war status quo was challenged. And then, so that led to the 2023 September military campaign. Again, once that issue found its solution, at least Azerbaijan established sovereignty, the other questions are the secondary importance. But also, bilateral format right now for Azerbaijan is very important. It means that Azerbaijan wants direct talks with Armenia. Azerbaijan wants no presence of the other powers in the room, and I believe that it's, let's say, there are some powers who want to get involved into this in the last couple of weeks. And in this context, I would say that the Azerbaijan prefers bilateral format. But what happened in Munich, in Berlin, that showed that bilateral format can be easily integrated into the European and American agenda. It can be easily continued on those platforms. And it shows that this de facto peace from this point, using this existing platform model, we can move on to the most stable format of the peace, but also we can slide back to the more dangerous say conditions.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, the question is very obvious. Before I go to some other questions, what is the most important obstacle for signing peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan? Well, again, I would like to start with Anne. In your opinion, what is the most important? What is the most significant obstacle?
Well, I do think that the security dilemma continues to define relations. A complete lack of trust, and although Azerbaijan was successful in establishing its territorial integrity, monopoly on use of force throughout that territory, the cornerstones of a sovereign state, at least based on a request from Baku that that Armenia add into the peace discussions, forever renouncing any irredentist claims on Karabakh, which some in Armenia still are posing, and I presume Karabakh Armenians will want to at some point not only be able to return home, but the terms under which they could return to Karabakh remains a source of concern, understandably. So that, to me, is sort of the essence of this security dilemma, and that there's no confidence on either side of how, or no path forward in how to resolve this ongoing dilemma. Because, well, I'll just stop there. I think that is, again, shows the metamorphosis, but the continuation of the security dilemma for both sides.
Okay, thank you. And the same question to Alexander. And yes, please. What is the main obstacle for? Yeah, and I would add to something. Do you think Azerbaijan is preparing for the new war? Yes. What is the main obstacle for the peace? For agreeing for peace, and the second part, do you think Azerbaijan might be preparing for the new war, I don't know, fourth, fifth war with Armenia?
First, the main obstacle is that if you, for peace, you need two sides. For consensual peace, for trying to resolve the conflict, to delimitate and demarc borders, to recognize the territories of each other, to normalize relations, etc., you need both sides. You cannot do it alone. Problem of territorial integrity of Azerbaijan resolved by war. Even not just problem of territorial integrity, because okay, in 2020 you had war, in 2023, you had deportation of people living there. So the idea was to take territory, not people. It was not about people of Nagorno-Karabakh. It was territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. So, okay, it finished like that. They resolved the problem of territorial integrity. But now, I cannot call it peace, because from some time to time they kill people. From time to time you have shootings. You have some territories of Republic of Armenia, which was occupied already after the war of 2020, approximately about up to 200 kilometers. Not a lot, but you have it. You have territorial pretense from this and then from this and that side. You have a lot of problems. And I cannot see a will from Azerbaijani side to go to normal negotiations to resolve all this complex of problems, which are complicated, sure, but in reality, you even don't have real negotiations. Absolutely right. I agree with Ahmed that all negotiations are really now bilateral, even if you have them in Brussels, in Munich, in wherever, but they are bilateral. Just people are in the room, two of the officials from Armenia and Azerbaijan, and nothing. You don't have result. You have discursive pressure on Armenia. Please understand me right. I don't say that Armenians are good, Azerbaijanis are bad. It's not about that. Azerbaijanis are strong, and they not good or bad, but strong. They are stronger than nowadays Armenia, and they try to take all they can after the war. And this is the main problem, I would say, the main obstacle for the problem. And your second question, I'm afraid I've forgotten.
It was the additional question. Do you think Azerbaijan might be preparing for?
Oh, yeah. It's not about my thinking. Azerbaijan is preparing to, buy weapon and have training of their armors, and on this territory, which I say they build military infrastructure, etc., etc. As for that, if you ask me, I would ask maybe don't know, because as for military actions from time to time, yes, I do. We see that it's a reality. As for really wild-scale war against Armenia, I'm not sure. It is one of scenarios I can imagine, but Armenia is a recognized state. It's member of UN. It's not like Nagorno-Karabakh, which is not was not recognized. It's not so simple to organize such kind of military operation. You have 3 million populated country. To deport all of them or to kill all of them, it's not so easy as it was in Nagorno-Karabakh. So the answer would be, I don't know. In principle, in future, I can see that it could be in principle possible, but really you don't know how things will go. At least we have in Azerbaijan discourses and organizations, for example, official, who call, and you have it on TV in Azerbaijan, etc. They call Armenia, whole territorial Republic of Armenia, they call it Western Azerbaijan. And they call people Western Azerbaijanis, etc. So we'll see.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Alexander. And to Ahmad, what do you think? The first is, of course, what is the main obstacle in for peace agreement between these two nations? And also, in the wake of this question, do you think Azerbaijan might be preparing for the new war?
Okay, this is quite a challenging question, frankly speaking.
In the wake of talking
the-
about
the-
Azerbaijan, as Alexander pointed out.
Yeah, no, actually, I agree with the points raised by Alexander, and I'm going to build my answer on his his thesis also. But at the same time, if you ask it to a student, I believe that student can come with some answer very easily. But when you are involved in the conflict, understanding the conflict, practicing peace building, and the thing, so you are exposed to too much details. Like when you ask the question, what's the main problem for not having the peace? This is quite a hard question, frankly speaking. So that is why, especially we Azerbaijanis and Armenians, we are from the region, and that you want it or not, you are emotionally attached to this issue also, right? So you can take this academic neutrality, ethical rules, but still you are living in a society that you cannot emotionally say that I'm 100% away from this issue. So that's why the answering this question is very challenging one. But two issues like the Alexander raised, I agree with them, and I'm going to build on those issues. It's one, vacuum of security that he said in the previous answer, and also the Azerbaijan is stronger and in terms of the military right now, right? The very first question, the vacuum of the security. It's strange that we have vacuum of the security in the region because we have too much players in the region right now. And that quite interestingly creates this vacuum of security. At first sight, you can say that Turkey, the role that was owned by Russia for the last 30 years, and that's taken by Turkey. But you see that nobody wants to give it away that easily. So that's why that role is being challenged by everyone, by Iran, by France. So there are countries that want to get some piece of that pie, right? So that is why I believe that creates a geopolitically quite unstable conditions in the region. And so that is why understanding that, and Alexander also mentioned that Azerbaijan and Armenia, they do not operate in a vacuum. The external forces, their interest in this process, and especially the ones neighboring the region, right? So that kind of creates a conditions that, and it's right now we were discussing that issue in another conference, and it's right now a prisoner dilemma. Should Azerbaijan and Armenia cooperate together with each other against Russia, right? So what if at some point Armenia decides to cooperate with Russia against Azerbaijan? Should they trust each other at this moment? So this is a classic prisoner's dilemma in this case. So that is why I believe that one of the biggest problem that I would say that it's a geopolitical environment, and that we are living right now in the South Caucasus. The second issue, Azerbaijan, right now in this time, in our times, Azerbaijan being militarily more mighty than Armenia, right? The thing is, the modern conflicts, they start and they never end, right? Look at the conflicts that started by the Arab Spring, Syria, Libya, Ukraine war, the war that everybody was expecting to last for 3 days, 3 to 10 days, right? Basically it's the third year of that conflict. They start and never end. So that is one of the parameters of the modern conflicts. So nobody can win conventional war. That is the, let's say, conventional wisdom these days. But somehow the Armenian-Azerbaijan conflict that is not part of this understanding of the reality, because Azerbaijan started 2 conventional wars in 2020 and 2023. And in both cases, you have clear picture who is the winner, military terms, who is the loser. And in both cases, you have a document, basically signed paper, saying that, hey, yes, we understand that we lost it. we are withdrawing, etc., etc. Right? So the first time it was the three-party statement by Armenian PM, Mr. Pashinyan. The second time, the head of the Karabakh Armenians, like he signed basically dissolving the whole entity. And in this context, I believe that the peace builders, diplomats who want to achieve a peace, they are facing situation when, like, you don't face in other modern conflicts, when you have parties who are exhausted their potential for war. Now they want to have peace, right? So it's so easy for diplomats and peace builders, peacemakers, like to work in that environment. But what about when you have one clear winner in the process, not exhausted, can continue, and then the other party that fully exhausted clearly lost the war, right? So this is the environment that right now diplomats and everyone operates. And so that is why those, let's say, standard approach to this issue by even like by international community, that's not like a, let's say that whatever you can apply to other conflicts, to other peacebuilding process, you cannot apply it here. And of course, like Azerbaijan gained momentum. Again, Azerbaijan is the winner of the two conventional wars for the last 3 years, right? So there is no example like that. If you like look at this conflict that was like the Ukraine-Russia war, and you see that there are some, let's say, potential that when parties exhaust each other's potential, they can sit and talk, but not in our case. So I believe that this is the one of the obstacle, one of the main, let's say, issue that those dignified peace that we hear from Armenian side, and those certain conditions that Azerbaijan believes that it can take by force. So that is why I believe that there is a long way to go in terms of this condition also. Sorry, it was a bit longer, so sorry.
No, well, in other words, do you think Azerbaijan might start another war with Armenia? Yes or no?
Let me put it. That's another hard question. Like, like yes or no. You are making it so hard to answer, Jack. I have to tell you this.
Question. You don't know.
Like,
Not say yes or no.
For right now, there is no indication that there is any preparation for the war, but it's a standard proceeding. I believe that Azerbaijan. Sorry.
But it might happen, so you cannot exclude this possibility. It's an option.
If you want yes and no.
Yes or no, it's hard to say.
So that's my answer, right? But you see, you automatically demand elaboration. Like, you want some more.
No, it's impossible to say.
Right now there is no indication that there will be war, so I would say no. But at the same time, I would say that Azerbaijan always never leaves the military option away. It's basically in parallel. So I would say that in all cases, for example, the September 2023, that military campaign happened after the Red Cross and the Red Crescent having military humanitarian aid to Karabakh Armenians on 16th and 17th September, right? So nobody expected that, but then there was a landmine explosion. So I would say that Azerbaijani army is always ready, and the switching from the diplomatic mode to the army mode, that takes a couple of days, and I believe that. So that is why right now there is no indication, but when the mood changes here, like the applying military force shouldn't take much longer time for Azerbaijan. Again, in terms of the conventional war, Azerbaijan won it, so and there is no exhaustion. It's not exhausted. Thank you.
But you just called this events of September 2023 a war. Earlier you would say you would prefer to refer it as some kind of anti-terrorist operation, right? But now you agree that
the issue is that in terms of the campaign, in both cases. So for me, if there is a 200 people plus people lost,
yes.
So I would say that the scale. But of course, like that scale, like I wouldn't compare it to the war of the 1990s and the 2023. So, but anything like that, just to explain in both cases that there is a document signed at the end of it, right? So just to make it comparison very easily. So that's why.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're getting very close. We should open this floor to the discussion. I had some other questions which I wanted to ask, but since it's time for us to open the floor, I want to ask a little bit different question, partially historical. Somewhere after the end of the Second World War, I beg your pardon, some Turkish journalists allegedly approached Stalin and asked him, it was Stalin or some other senior Soviet diplomat, why there is Mount Ararat on the coat of arms of Armenia? Well, Mount Ararat, or in Turkish it sounds, now it's called Ahridah, right? Ahridah in Turkish. And
Yes.
Ahridah, right? And Stalin, or again, it was some Soviet senior diplomat, he allegedly said that this is true, but there is a moon on the coat of arms of Turkey, and moon, or crescent more exactly, is not located on the territory of Turkey. And now on, why there is now so much concern in Azerbaijan with this Ararat on the coat of arms of Armenia? Why there is so much talks that Armenia, it's actually started in Armenia probably with Pashinyan, that Armenia should change their constitution and should have a new one, should change its coat of arms. Where these conversations came from?
That question to me?
No, I want to ask, who wants to pick up this question? Anne, do you have any piece of wisdom?
Well, I'll defer to my colleagues on that one. I've read a little bit about it, and the whole context wasn't particularly clear to me. But so a question from my part is this related in a way to discussion in Armenia for developing a new constitution, which Pashinyan, Prime Minister Pashinyan raised? And that seems to be, to me, to be a more serious consideration, although the two may be linked, but rewriting the constitution so that it drops a reference to unification of Armenia proper with Karabakh, so of course would be a major change and would address, I think, Baku's concerns about irredentist claims to Karabakh, as well as being in line with the contemporary reality. So that's all I have to say on that. I really defer to my colleagues to discuss the nuances of this dispute over the coat of arms and the anthem and the Constitution, which all seem to be related as far as I can tell.
Okay, yes, thank you, Alexander. What can you tell us about this? Was the story true? Do you know if it indeed happened, or it was just a legend? Or like an anecdote?
It should be a legend. I never seen the real historical. Nothing about that, but does matter. Legends, sometimes legends are more true than reality. You can say
Exactly.
First, I would say that I wouldn't agree fully with Ahmed. I wouldn't call what happened in September 2023 war. In 2020 you had war, that's right, but in 2023 it was just one day, and it was brutal deportation of civic population of Nagorno-Karabakh, Armenian-controlled territory, ethnic Armenians of territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. It was not a war. It was ethnic cleansing. Second, your question about constitution, about flag, about I don't know, all this are parts of pressure on Armenia, which has dynamics. A year ago, they didn't talk about our constitution. Now they do. A year ago, they didn't talk about its not even part of constitution. It's a preamble of constitution, but doesn't matter. You have discursive pressure. I said you about Western Azerbaijan, about coming back to Yerevan, about Armenians who destroyed all Azerbaijani, I don't know, architects, buildings, etc., historical memory on the territory of Armenia, etc., etc., discursive pressure. And this is one of the parts of discursive pressure on Armenia. You have pressure, diplomatic pressure. They cannot do it directly because we don't have diplomatic relationships. I mean Armenia and Azerbaijan, but you can do it through third countries like Russia, like Turkey, etc. You have pressure on the ground, shooting, military actions, etc. All this together is a strategy. It's not just in case, it's a strategy to push on Armenia because Armenia is weak now, and to try to take, I said it already, all they can in this now. This is more or less clear for me, for example, but what is interesting, then they try to do it now. They won. Theoretically, you can wait that they can wait. It's not obvious why are they doing it. They want to do it quickly, to take everything they can quickly now. That is a question which is interesting for me as a political scientist. I'm not a peacemaker or an NGO. I don't have a identity of a NGO type person. I'm an academician. I'm a scholar. So to understand why are they trying to do it quickly? Maybe in Baku they think that situation can change. For example, after Ukraine war, maybe they think that role of Russia could change in the region. You listen what they are saying. Thank you, Ahmed. He brought the typical Azerbaijani rhetoric. Let others go from the region. We don't need others. We don't need outsiders. We will resolve this conflict. Maybe I give it more radical than Ahmed said, but it's very usual. We should do it ourselves. Armenians and Azerbaijanis together, without Iranians, without Russians, without Europeans, without Americans, we'll do it in the box. It is very clear what is going to be when it will be box, and if it will be box, because they are stronger. And they try to press on Armenia, and part of this pressure are these talkings about constitution, about exclaves, about everything like that. Sometimes it's not very serious, sure, but it brings to problems in relationship, in a perspective of normalizing situation, normalizing this conflict.
Okay, thank you. But it's also resembled something what Russians were saying in the 19th century, early 19th century, and what Putin said something about Russia's war with Ukraine. It's spor славян между собой. It's like a dispute of Slavs between
Absolutely, it's the same. The same, because you go out and we Slavs, we will resolve this conflict, and it is
not interfere.
Yeah, well, it's very clear what did he mean, how they would resolve this.
Yes, yes, Ahmad, please.
Yeah, I will stick to the original version of the.
Yes, this coat of arms is so important. Institution.
I have never ever heard any demand from Azerbaijan side, officially or on public level, about the Armenian symbols, coat of arms, nothing. But I heard that Azerbaijan is concerned that Armenian constitution, Armenian legislative base, they have points that makes moving forward quite, let's say, challenging for Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan prepares for lasting peace, for the even like it should last post Pashinyan times, right? So even after Pashinyan, nobody should challenge that Pashinyan signed a peace deal. That's not relevant, right? So because if in your constitution you have a clause saying that the head of the Armenian state should not sign any document that says that Karabakh is part of Azerbaijan. So it means that after Pashinyan, that can be easily challenged by a very, let's say, any court is going to make a decision that that document that was signed is not legitimate because that was against the constitution of Armenia. So that is what concerns Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, in this context, I would say that there is a one clear example. It's about Almaty Declaration. I remember the researchers, how satisfied all of them, there was quite a satisfaction that in November, if I'm not mistaken, November 2022, when first time Prime Minister Pashinyan said that Armenia is ready to recognize Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan and Azerbaijan territory being 68.6 square kilometers, right? And there was also, and that meeting took place during the European Policy Community meeting. And also they used the word Almaty Declaration, that the border should be determined by Almaty Declaration. So that was a clearly success for the diplomats in the process, and all of them, they were quite happy that they achieved it. And then after a couple of days, somebody in the Armenian parliament, I forget the name, apologies, he declared that yes, Almaty Declaration is a good document, but we should not forget that there are some exceptions to this document. That when Armenia signed this document, it said that, well, we do not, the Armenian, the Azerbaijani map, we do not recognize it in these borders, etc. It's a sudden change of the mood in diplomatic community and in Baku, and the mood changed suddenly. And then this time, Armenian colleagues and the diplomats, they would say that, the Armenia signed the Almaty Declaration with certain exceptions. So that's why it cannot be applied to that context. But then when there was a 2023 September military campaign, after that, you would see that in this, after that, there is Almaty Declaration and Armenia like the in the need of that declaration that was said, yes, we signed it with some exceptions, but that document was not sent to the Russian MFA. So back then, Russian MFA was a depository of those documents. So the main text of the declaration, right? So the diplomats will talk about Almaty Declaration, then say that we signed with it, we did not send it to anyone. So this kind of situation makes the whole process very unpredictable, very much from Azerbaijan perspective, very much you don't know what to expect. So that is why when you have Armenian constitution demanding that Armenian leaders should not sign any document recognizing Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan.
Did Armenian constitution say that?
There are links to the certain documents in the constitution that they say that, and I believe that there are limitations about that. So it might be pure technical that their formulation might be different, but this is the perception like that in Azerbaijan. But overall, this creates a very unstable situation for Azerbaijan to move forward. So that's why Azerbaijan says that before moving forward with a peace document, the constitution and the legal basis for this document, they should be checked. Certain corrections should be made, because if you sign it And somebody after Pashinyan is going to challenge the legitimacy of this peace treaty. So Azerbaijan is afraid that there will be another war. So that is why, in this context, Azerbaijan hasn't said anything about the symbol, like the coat of arms, etc., of Armenia. But about constitution, yes, I have heard about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I guess we will start picking up questions from the floor. Okay. Well, it says, for many years, Armenia was stigmatizing for allegedly being a Russian ally. Now Azerbaijan is speaking by mouth of the Russia's taking out of Pandora box more than and more ideas demanding delimitation, Western Azerbaijan or Azerbaijani exclaves to hinder the peace treaty. My question is, who is now an ally of Russia? Now, who is now an ally of Russia? That's a question.
I will. That's a question to me, right? So I should challenge that question.
Or is that an ally of Russia? Yes, so we'll start with Ahmad. It was an interesting question because I saw Alexander's interview in which he said that Russia is retreating from the region, and the main reason is, of course, the war on Ukraine, but Russia's aggression in Ukraine. So it shifted everything, changed all situation, all geopolitical situation. Now Russia becomes dependent on Azerbaijan and Turkey, basically, to pump some oil, gas and oil for this Baku-Ceyhan. Like certain, I think I use this term gas and oil laundering instead of money laundering. There is also gas and oil laundering. So is Azerbaijan an ally of Russia instead of Armenia, or still Armenia is the ally of Russia?
This is again, this question requires. I will try to make it as short as possible, right? So Azerbaijan recognized the enormous contribution made to the peace process by United States. Yes. I believe at least what was done in May 2023, when the whole process started. This is, this is also part of history, right? Yes. And what happened in Munich and other in Brussels and St. Petersburg? They met in St. Petersburg, but they did not. Like both countries refused to have Russia as a the third country in the room. Even the format is a bilateral, but somebody could start it. But they agreed with the European Union representative being in the room, right? A Western country representative being in the room, and it's Azerbaijan. So even at this stage, Azerbaijan can incorporate the Western presence to the bilateral format, but not Russian in this context. But also, I believe that if you take into account that whole Caspian Sea basin being connected to the world market, it's through Azerbaijan. Now, President Aliyev, in his inauguration speech, he talked about that the main goal for the Azerbaijani foreign policy in the upcoming decades is going to be Central Asian countries, right? So it means that creating a platform for Turkey, European Union, and the United States having more presence in Central Asia. Like saying that is you can achieve while working like this is in a being ally, Russian ally in this region, and that. No, I don't think so. Yes, Azerbaijan do not behave the typical countries that in Brussels, in Washington would be considered as the pro-Western. Azerbaijan never declares hate toward Russia. That's true. Like in case of Georgia, in case of Ukraine, in case of now in the government in Armenia, you would see that in all of those cases, all of those countries declare like the clearly hate or love toward Russia. The Russian-Azerbaijan relations, there are quite many non-public elements than public elements. So that's why certain issues, they stay under the radar. But since the Western Azerbaijan relations, it's more public one, so that is why those issues, whatever there's a problem or there's something positive, that that easily gets surfaced, right? In this context, I would say that many also accuse Azerbaijan being in tandem with the Turkey, being a little brother of Turkey. Azerbaijan and Turkey, I would say that there is quite a significant degree of integration in many areas. But when it's about like at least two cases, the case of Kosovo and Israel, it clearly shows that when Azerbaijan interests demand to act differently than Turkey, Azerbaijan acts in that way. In both cases, in Kosovo and in Israel, right? So that is why this idea that Azerbaijan is being
Yes, you get frozen.
from time
With
to time, you would
We have some problems
hear
with
that
connection.
a lot
Yes.
of it's most of this is part of Baku Tbilisi. All of those issues, they are in the same line with Central Asia.
Okay. Okay, Alexander. So the question is a bit silly, maybe. Is Armenia an ally of Turkey or an ally of Russia, or Azerbaijan is ally of Russia today?
You know, here I would agree with Ahmad. It's not so white. You cannot answer this question. It's not so white black picture. It's not so primitive. Yes, now I would say that Russia needs Azerbaijan in this situation with Ukraine and with all this. Russia needs Azerbaijan because of some parts of gray import of energy supplies. From the other point, I can say that several months ago, Ursula von der Leyen was in Baku, and she said that Azerbaijan is a good partner for European Union. As for Armenia, yes, Armenia is still member of STO and Eurasian Economic Union, but it is a dynamic, and now you have crisis in Armenian-Russian relationships, etc. So it's not so simple. Russia, I can, if try to answer just with one sentence, you can say that Russia doesn't have allies. But it would be primitive as well. I would say that Azerbaijani politics now, I can call complementarism. They have their relationships with Russians, quite good. They have their relationships to Europeans in sphere of energy, but not just. They have their relationships with Israel, with Arabic countries in Islamic organization of Islamic countries. They even try to have their normal relationships with Iran. So you can call this politics complementary, because if it's about them, they don't say that please isolate us from everybody. No, they work with it, try to work with everybody. Armenia's possibility are not so good because to normalize relationships with Turkey and Azerbaijan, 2 of 4 neighbors of Armenia, is quite impossible, at least now. you have you try to have normal relationships with Iranians, but Iran have a lot of problems with Westerners in general, and United States of America in particular. You try to have normal relationships with Georgians, but Georgians have problems with relationships with Russian Federation. Both Russian Federation and Iran and United States and West are important. So situation is not so simple. You know, usually it's a symbol. You use this this picture, Russia now in post-Soviet space, when you want to say that they are bad.
Yes.
Russia is bad, so everybody who is ally of that country is bad. But if you don't use moral terms in political science, so you see that situation is more complicated. It's not just so simple.
Yes, right. And what do you think? It's a bit, well, a bit strange question. Who is an ally? Who is today an ally of? Who is today main ally of Russia? Armenia or Azerbaijan?
Well, I will probably echo, but using somewhat different terminology, what the two colleagues have said, that it's not a binary situation. It's not either or. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan. So it comes back to this whole idea of transactional or foreign policy a la carte. It depends. Certainly, Armenia and Russia's relations have deteriorated for the reasons that we all know. But the linkages between Russia and Armenia are also multifaceted and longstanding. Economic ties. Russia owns or manages much of Armenia's critical infrastructure. Russia has the contract to update Armenia's nuclear power plant. And it was already mentioned, Armenia is a part of the Eurasian Economic Union and so on. And its trade dependency, the mutual trade dependency, has grown since the war in Ukraine. So yes, relations have deteriorated. Armenia is working very hard to diversify its security partnerships, but for all the reasons that have been mentioned, that's very tricky. Also, it's important, I think, just to recall longstanding cultural and personal linkages. There is a huge Armenian diaspora still living in Russia, and those contacts have not gone away, although there has been, some have returned to Armenia after the war started. And not to forget, there's a Russian military base in Armenia, and the terms of its presence have just been, were extended in 2010, I think, to last until 2044. So it's, again, issue dependent, and also Azerbaijan's relations with Russia have improved significantly, economic ties, its hub in the North-South corridor, and so on. So is, again, I'm reiterating, but with some other information, that the relations are very transactional. And it's also come back to a very basic point. Geography still matters. Russia is not leaving the region. Russia is there. It has very important economic, political, security interests in the region. And so geography still matters, and it's going to be an actor with both Armenia and Azerbaijan for the foreseeable future. And the other point that I would just make, which I think is interesting, there's a new Klingendahl report that Russia, Iran, and Turkey, despite all of their competitive issues and so on, they are making common cause now, particularly in the South Caucasus, to create a kind of new economic order that checks Western influence in the region. And they have common interests, Turkey, Iran, and Russia, in doing that. So again, so short answer, it's not an either or situation. It's much more complicated, and there are multiple dimensions that one has to consider in terms of those bilateral relations between Armenia and Russia and Azerbaijan and Russia. And it's a very fluid environment.
Okay, thank you. You wanted to say something, Alexander? You wanted to...
I found a way to answer this question.
Yes, great.
Just in one sentence. If we move from statics to dynamics, I can say that nowadays relationships of Azerbaijan with Russia is better than it was a year or 2 years ago. And nowadays, Armenia's relationship with Russia is worse than it was
Then,
previously.
yes, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Now, the question is, I see the question, are civil societies in both republics, in both countries, are ready for peace? Are they ready? Are they ready to accept the peace treaty? Uh, let's start with, maybe we can start with Alexander, then go to Anne. Ahmed. Let's start with Alexander.
By definition, civil society cannot be united.
Yes,
Armenia maybe is not most democratic countries in the world, but it has civil society. Civil society, you have civil
probably people.
society in general, people, I would say yes, but I would repeat, not because they're good or they're nice, but to imagine now a war, what is, you have war or peace? Imagine now situation of war with Azerbaijan, with perspective of win this war in situation of nowadays, it is impossible. You have no people in Armenia who think like that, at least mentally rational people. Majority of people, sure, they want peace with Azerbaijan. Peace doesn't mean love. It's not about love. It's about to have normal relationship, not to have shootings, not to have they kill people every month, not to have these people killed, not to have every day this talkings about Western Azerbaijan and Yerevan as part of Azerbaijan and such kind of things. Yes, I would say majority of people they want peace. As for civil society, I would say yes. Majority of civil society organizations, NGOs, etc., they are for peace and they want to normalize. And the main problem which Armenian society see in that problem of peace with Azerbaijan, that you don't have partner. You want peace, but they don't. That's a problem. Not that you want war now. It's kind of out of discussion, at least now.
Yes, and to Ahmad, what do you think? Are civil society, sad people in Azerbaijan, are they ready for peace? Are they ready to accept Armenians? Because, you know, I found there was a lot of demonization going on for the last 30 years. Well, considering there was outbreak of violence at the end of 1980s, early 1990s, there was a horrible things going on. But today, people in Azerbaijan are generally the civil societies, are they ready for peace with Armenia?
By definition, should be, right? They are the civil societies. They should have a bit more, let's say, innovative approach to this issue. But at the same time, like the last year, we had one workshop, and it was a domestic dialogue workshop on the regional security, and we understood that the things are moving so fast that right now the civil society, they do not have even a plan. Like if even before 2020 Karabakh War, there was some vision how peace should be. Now, like that, you cannot, and that requires quite a let's say extended discussions. The time frame that like the one event changed the other one very fast. So that's why civil society right now, I would say that they are not adapted to this fast changing environment. And the civil society, so I believe that the expert community might be expert community, and they are more equipped to this issue than NGOs. But still, I believe that there are much more resources required for them to do their job with the resources they have now. It's not possible for sure. So I hope I answered the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And to Anne, do you have anything to add? What do you think? Is the civil
Yeah, I think this is a really, well, all the questions are good. This is a very important question. And if we recall, going back before the 2020 war, both President Aliyev and Prime Minister Pashinyan, in their rapprochement efforts, when there was a window of great hope and optimism, they talked about preparing their populations for peace, along with some very specific confidence building measures that the two undertook, direct security, communication networks, etc. So that, I think, both leaders recognized that precisely because the historical, and I would say selective historical narratives that had been created and nurtured during this period from 94 to 2020 really was these were enemy images, competing victimhoods, all of these things that were very much adopted, almost mirror image kind of developments, historical narratives in both sides, in both countries, that the need to overcome that would be important for galvanizing public support for an enduring and stable peace. So my thought, what could be done to neutralize these enemy images and competing victimhoods? I would say the conflicts are very real, but the historical narratives need to be expanded to include also times when Armenians, Azerbaijanis, a very mosaic population in the past, live together well. Armenians, Azerbaijanis are in Georgia, they're in Russia, and so on. There's not an inevitable conflict or irreconcilable conflict between the two people. So a lot of work does need to be done to expand the historical narratives, not to gloss over the conflicts, but to also include the possibilities and opportunities for cooperation and working together.
Okay, thank you so much. And I guess this was very optimistic note. Also, I'm not very optimistic looking at the situation in the region, but that was very optimistic note. And I recall book written by Stuart Kaufman, Modern Hatreds. He noted that, well, he was not the only one who noted that there is no such thing as eternal hatreds. All these hatreds came with development of nationalism, nationalistic ideologies. They came from, hatreds between different nations, and nations evolved somewhere at the end of the 19th and 20th centuries. Well, in conclusion, we are out of time. We have this is 14 minutes after 12. I want to thank everyone for coming here, all speakers at this panel, all those who came to this discussion. I'm sorry we were not able to answer all these questions. I had a lot of questions to ask too, but I want to say thank you to the Central Asia program, to George Washington University. I want to thank Sebastian for letting me to organize this event. And thank you to all of you. Thank you, and hope I will see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.